that he's completely wrong and must have read the wrong law, because in fact there is clear provision in the law for ministers to make these decisions. Now, ministers can make decisions in different ways. You can simply orally set out what your decision is and the civil servant can write it down. You can write it down in the name of a minister, or you can do the thing which is, in my view, always the best, which is the minister has cause to write things down and sign them and date them on the date which they are properly done. So in my view, I mean, for the Leader of the Opposition to take this point demonstrates just how naked he has been left in the context of the attempts to criticize this process. But look, I've seen many things in the context of being in politics in Gibraltar for the last 22 years actively. I've seen politicians jump on bandwagons. I have never before seen an opposition politician seek to actually hijack an issue in the way that Keith Asopaldi is trying to hijack the McGrail inquiry, which is designed to get to the truth of what happened in the context of Im McGrail's early retirement, but to try and hijack it for party political gain. I mean, I half expect to see Mr. Asopaldi on a horse looking like Dick Turpin hijacking this process, because this is really quite remarkable. And people will see through it. An inquiry is about getting to the truth, and Mr. Asopaldi should allow the inquiry to get to the truth and allow the government, Mr. McGrail's team and everybody else who is a part of the inquiry, subject to the control of the commissioner in the inquiry, to get to the stage where all of the evidence is before the inquiry, before he starts making wild allegations of the sorts that he's making.
Coming back to the law, the Leader of the Opposition says that in the case of the police, he's pointed out that the relevant officer named in the law in the subsection or the relevant paragraph regarding the police is the commissioner and not a minister or a government minister. So why would the chief minister be involved?
Because if you carry on reading the law, it says that if there is a situation where the individual is making a disclosure where he doesn't enjoy or he doesn't believe that the Commissioner of Police is going to give him that protection, he can actually default to the process which is ministerial. And you've got to understand what is happening here and what it is that we're trying to do. We're trying to ensure in every case, in every workplace, that an individual who believes that he has information which he needs to bring to the attention of a relevant tribunal, of a relevant authority, etc., is able to provide that without fear that he's going to suffer a detriment at the hands of the management, if necessary, of that organization. And here, there have been individuals who do not have confidence in the senior management team of the police.
Including the current commissioner. Does this question the...
Absolutely. It questions the current Commissioner of Police. Not because the government questions the current Commissioner of Police, because the individual making the disclosure may not have confidence that the senior management team in the police is going to protect them. That's the reason that they seek whistleblower protection. There is nothing controversial in that. That's why the individual activates the protection. In some instances, the individual believes that they will be protected by the senior management team and the problem is further below. And in some instances, the individual believes the problem could go all the way to the top of the senior management team. In some instances, we have provided the protection and the individual has said, but I don't need to activate it, but I may need to activate it in the future. So this is a complex area of law which the Leader of the Opposition is trying to hijack for his own purposes to create a veneer or a pretense of there being a problem. That's why when you challenge Keith Asopaldi, when your colleague challenges Keith Asopaldi, he says, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm saying that there's potentially the perception that there might be something wrong, which is obviously to say, I have absolutely no reason for saying the things I'm saying, but I want to pretend that there's something wrong for my own party political purposes.
You've mentioned the question of perception. Mr. Asopaldi has argued that this is a matter of how the matter is perceived by the public and sort of confidence, that you should, as Chief Minister, be distancing yourself from the process, also highlighting that the law firm where you are a partner on sabbatical is where the complainant's statement to police was taken.
Well, I don't think that there is any better response to that point that is being made by Mr. Asopaldi than the point that your colleague put to him in the context of the questioning that she did of him. It's very clear that the individual involved wanted to be interviewed at the offices of the Police Federation's solicitor. That's not a matter in which the government is involved, as Rosa Stenger rightly put to him. It's not a matter in which I had any influence. It was a matter of choice by the complainant, which the investigators did not challenge. So who is Mr. Asopaldi to challenge the complainant, the complainant's federation, and indeed the investigator? Here, what you have is the Leader of the Opposition trying to interfere in the way in which a sexual offences complaint has been investigated by the Royal Gibraltar Police. That is the context. And I would ask you to look at the opposite. In other words, look at what the opposite of Mr. Asopaldi is saying. In other words, what he must be advocating. That we don't give whistleblower protection to people who say that they have information to provide to the inquiry or where they have a complaint to make. That ministers do not act in keeping with the law and provide that protection in instances where it comes to them. That we should condition the way that a complaint is made in a sexual offence allegation. Those are not things where I would venture to suggest ministers should be acting to block information being before a commission, to stop somebody from being interviewed in a way that they are comfortable, to interfere with where the Royal Gibraltar Police make the decision that they should be in fact carrying out those investigations. That is the consequence, if you take it to its logical conclusion, of what Keith Asopaldi is saying in his statements, and it's very dangerous in the context of the independence of the police and the defence of our democracy.
You've accused the GSD of politicising the McGrail case. In turn, Mr. Asopaldi has pointed out that you commented on the matter on Direct Democracy in response to a question before the case had ended.
Well, I didn't comment on any matter which related to the complaint. I commented on the statement by Mr. McGrail that he had somehow a reason to fear for his life. I mean, I would have thought that that is very clear to even Mr. Asopaldi, who wants to hijack this whole process for his own party political ends, has nothing to do with the complaint or indeed the defense in the context of that issue. But let's be very clear about what we are seeing here, and let's make it translucent to your viewers. You've got lawyers acting for Mr. McGrail who are in the executive committee of the GSD. You've got the GSD commenting on an inquiry that has not yet taken place and suggesting that I should not comment on matters whilst they freely make wild allegations in trying to take this issue and turn it into a political football for their own political advantage. Keith Asopaldi as part of Team McGrail, the GSD as part of Team McGrail, lawyers involved in the inquiry for Mr. McGrail who are in the executive committee of the GSD. That is the translucent reality that people need to be aware of, and they need to see that the McGrail issues, which I believe should be open, should be dealt with on the basis of full and frank disclosure by all parties. As I've said 1,000 times before, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth are being used by the GSD in a transparent party political attempt to try and curry favour with the electorate by creating spectres and ghosts which are just not there. But look, I suppose that's what you do if you have a government that's acting properly and you cannot grapple with them as an opposition. You create issues which are not a reality in an election year to try and gain whatever little advantage you can gain.